Hello, and welcome to another episode of Knights of the Old Republicans. I know I've said that joke already, but it's Inauguration Day and perhaps it is appropriate. I am your host, Taylor Melnick, and we are here doing more pointless Star Wars video games for no audience, merely for fun. Imagine that. Let me just drag the mic back to position here. But hello, and welcome back. There is more Star Wars to be played, and there's more Star Wars to be made. I'm here just kind of coming back into the game after a not so long hiatus, and uniquely, I am actually trying to release this episode around the time that I recorded it. I know, shocking new information, but it is what it is. We have to change things up. It's a new year. It's a new year, baby. Here we go. Actual lore. I see another Jedi come to Small Korriban. Good to meet you. Jedi come here often? Do they? Do they come here often? Can I see you around here often? It's hard making this funny when I have to do both voices. Maybe it should be easier. I guess I could try. There are many people who come to Korriban from throughout Sith space, hoping to join the Academy. Some of them are Jedi who have left the Order. They don't usually. I guess he is kind of diabolical if you listen. This is also a new voice for the Twi'leks. A new sinister voice. You will get into the Academy for certain. I understand Jedi who have left the light side are made very welcome. Yeah, sure. But I haven't left the light side. I'm still signed up. I'm enrolled for until the end of February. Oh, I see then. Then this is a very dangerous place for you to have come. Korriban is a Sith planet. You know that, right? Correct. But enough about that. It is very nice to see that the Ebon Hawk has returned. I have not seen that ship for some time, indeed. Okay, keep going. Since you're a regular to our little colony, the docking fee is only 25 credits. That's not really necessary. If I fail this, force persuade. I suppose you are correct. I won't hurt anything if I just let you on through. Can I ask you some questions? What information do you wish? Have you heard about a star? Can you tell me about Korriban? Well, this is Dreshte. It's the only colony on the planet. Korriban is a Sith planet well within their space, though it's not very well inhabited. The Sith allow Zerka to conduct some mining around here, and the company operates the starport, but otherwise, the colony revolves around the local Sith Academy. What can you tell me about the Academy? Unless you're one of the hopefuls who is trying to become a student here, I suggest you avoid it. The Sith are the law here and do as they please. It can be quite dangerous. Alright, cool. Enjoy your stay. I like doing voices, I don't know. I know it's annoying a lot of the time when you hear it, but like...
No, that is the wrong answer.
I wish I could do a voice for him.
Pathetic hopefuls can't possibly all be this stupid, can you?
I think... Master Shardan, give us a chance. We'll do anything to get into the Academy. So, the Twi'leks give me good opportunities here.
I'm no master yet, but I like the sound of that. Alright, one more question. A lot of you is trying my patience. Alright, let's say you become a Sith and I am your commanding officer. I give you an order to spare the life of an enemy. Do you do it?
Oh, of course, Shardan. Anything you command us.
We would never oppose you.
No. Do you honestly believe that the Sith are in need of such sniveling cowards? Mercy is a weakness. If your leader shows weakness, it is your duty to kill him and show true authority, true power. That is why the Sith are strong.
Thank you, Shardan. We understand now. We understand!
And you probably never will. You wouldn't survive 5 seconds in the Academy. The other students would tear you apart. Bah, I can't be bothered with fools. Perhaps I should... You, Jedi, you're looking to get into the Academy, are you not? Well, of course you are. Why else would you be here? Let me pose a question to you. These hopefuls will never survive in the academy. A lesson must be taught here, but I am at a loss.
This guy's face does not match his voice.
Can't think of anything cruel.
What? Oh.
I wasn't talking to you. I
didn't say anything.
The effort of being killed and do it myself. Perhaps I should turn their skin inside out. Or force lightning. Yes, it's a most impressive display. Or perhaps a bit of humiliation is in order.
Dude, this guy's eyes are like brown. You notice this?
Colony. Or they could lose all control of their bodily functions. What do you think? I just can't seem to decide.
I don't want to get the dark side points. Nah, fuck it. I'm probably not gonna fuck Bastille anyways. You just can't kill them.
Please help us! Silence! Of course I can kill them. The Sith can do whatever they like on Korriban, and frankly, these worms rather deserve it. That's for you to decide, however.
Just scare him a little.
You're as pathetic as they are, it looks like. I can't be bothered. Get out of here, all of you. The sight of you makes me sick to my stomach.
I got both. The game just doesn't want me to live. And you're not putting on pants until you have to, mister. I will not be bothered with adding pants. That's not why I play the game. Guys, this is not why I play the game. I play the game for immersion, okay? I want to feel like a Star War. I want to go into the game, and I want real world, over, okay? I put in that time, I forget to turn in my time, I forget to go to the meeting, doesn't matter, guys. It's Star Wars time. Star Wars, on. This is a human name, Bree.
Greetings, welcome to Korriban. Is there anything you need? You can talk to me.
What sort of merchandise do you offer?
Weapons, mostly. I've got connections. You'll need them if you're going to be spending any time here.
Why?
There are a lot of Sith on this planet. This is where they come to study. Obnoxious brats, a lot of them. Just between you and me, I'll never understand why everyone thinks dark side and hooligan should be the same thing. But they are definitely dangerous, so that's why you'll probably need weapons. Yeah, not that they'll be much help.
What connections do you have?
Mandalorians raiders occasionally drop by, needing to get rid of some extras they can't sell in the civilized systems. They treat me well. I treat them well. It works out. So, if you need weapons, and you probably will, this is the place to come.
Why will I need weapons?
There are a lot. I've already said this. Frankly, I wouldn't be talking to you right now if I wasn't trying to give a sales pitch. So I'll just keep gesturing and try to get through the same things I explained earlier, and try not to notice the guy walking around drinking out of the cabinets in the back, to the left, to my right. It's so stressful. I should have been an engineer or a doctor, Gia. Yes, anything that doesn't involve giving talks and persuading people into buying things. All the evil voices are the same.
It's kind of the same. I'm sorry, guys. If this annoys you, you're gonna have to turn it off. I might be annoyed listening to all these voices, but I'm just having fun being stupid, you know. And also, I have eventually I have my one-off coming up, and I want to do voices for all the characters for my fun. And maybe it'll be cringe, maybe it won't. But you know, at this point, there comes a certain age in your life where you know it's almost like you might just fucking be cringe. If you might just say, you know what, this is what I want to do. I'm going to try my best. If I fuck it up, I guess I just look stupid to the people that already know that I look stupid sometimes. So I guess there's that. I'm not really interested in your gear at the moment, because I'm really only interested in the end game gear.
Those Sith are about. Probably even watching us in here. Don't bet they ain't.
It's weird, like how many of the models they reuse.
Look here, my dear friends. We have some newcomers to the colony, led by a Jedi, no less. I don't believe I've seen any of them before. Have you?
I hate Jedi, and these fallen ones are worse.
They always get into the academy, and they think they're better than the rest of us.
You should turn around and move along, kid. You don't want the trouble we'd give you.
Smart-mouthed newcomers to boot.
Looks pretty fresh to me, Lashao.
That's what I thought. Well, stranger, I don't know whether you're aware of this or not, but here on Korriban, the Sith do as they please. And we are Sith. Quite literally, whether you live or die depends upon our whim. What do you think of that?
I think this is a video game, and in this rare situation where three motherfuckers who are got home turf are challenging me to a fight, and I can shoot fucking lasers out of my fingers, and I've spent all playthrough 2 years, you know. With this game, I think it's just about a year, but, you know, lots of time coming up with how to beat people's asses. You can try to kill me, you'd fail, but you can try.
Those are very brave words for such an insignificant person. Do you not realize how many Sith are here in Dresde?
12. No, wait, 13.
Nice one, old man.
Thank you. It takes effort to be properly irreverent at my age.
Let me kill this one.
That's so funny.
Let me do it.
Now, let's not be hasty. Perhaps our friend here could yet offer up some amusement. What do you say? Amuse us, make us laugh, and we might just consider allowing you to live.
Persuade. Okay, these two Mandalorians are out in the woods.
Go on.
One of them collapses. He doesn't seem to be breathing and his eyes are glazed. The other Mandalorian takes out his communicator and contacts his commander.
I've heard this one before. I think...
Quiet.
He gasps, "My partner has collapsed. I don't know what to do." After a moment, the commander responds, "Calm down, I can help."
And then?
"First, let's make sure your partner is dead." There's a silence. Then a blaster shot is heard. Back on the communicator, the Mandalorian says, "Okay, now what?"
It would be more realistic if the commander just shot them both.
Ha! Too funny. Good one.
Yes.
Good
I suppose
one.
That wasn't too bad. All right then, my friend. You've done as you were asked. Perhaps we will meet again.
Maybe I would just make him laugh. I'll be like, well, I could kill them, but could I make them laugh? I don't know. I have this like intense yellow cast on my face because I have a rotating background and it's like a mostly yellow image, so I'm appropriately themed at the moment for being on Korriban. We shall see. We shall see. Lothal see. You know, Lothal, I was looking up stuff today. Lothal is like, it's like a Mesopotamian god, like with Gilgamesh and all these people. Tiamat, who's not actually a multi-headed dragon from D&D. Maybe you should speak to your old black friend.
Got something on your mind?
We'll communicate via CandorusNet. Why'd you want to come with me, homie?
No, I never did I?
You don't know you know, I don't. Are your answers always going to be elusive?
Elusive? Me elusive? Obviously, you've never tried to grab a Twi'lek dancing girl after drinking too much Onderan Willick juice.
I mean, it seems like a pretty niche thing to do.
I told you why I wanted to leave. I'd seen everything I wanted to on Kashyyyk. Time to go. Time to move on.
Hell yeah, bro. Retirees, they don't ever stay in one place. Expatriate for life. Move on to where?
To bed. I'm old and tired, you know.
I can feel that.
How many kilometer-high trees can you find an interest in before you figure you've had enough? I'd bet you can't be bothered to stay in one room for more than 15 minutes. And then there's all the critters in the Shadowlands. I'm just happy to be back in space, doing something new. Is that too much to ask?
You could do that on your own, though.
So I could. Well, not having a ship does tend to put a damper on that kind of idea, however. I'll admit, for all its flaws, Kashyyyk was home enough. But when you came along and I saw the destiny you had before you, I couldn't help but be intrigued.
You know what my destiny is?
Of course not. Weren't you listening last time? I can see that you have a destiny before you, but the details are far from clear. In fact, everything
Of course it is.
I can see is odd. Slightly off, as if my eyes are trying to trick me. Something is very dark about you. But, I'm sure you don't need to hear my ruminations. You've probably got enough nosy Jedi offering you one opinion after another to make you sick.
But I mean, you know that I'm Revan already, so, I mean, are you saying you already forgot that I was the Dark Lord of... Jolie, come on, you're not. Is force senility a thing? Can you, like, does people losing their force sensitivity play into, like, Alzheimer's in some way? Like, could you imagine, like, having to be this character and the only person you're ever with is, like, a senile old man? So there's supposed to be this moment where he finds out that you're the Dark Lord of the Sith, and you're just like, see, we can finally get past this. I had my mind wiped, I was the Dark Lord of the Sith, and everything should be cool from now on, right? And he's like, yes, yes. And then like 1 hour later, he's like, the Dark Lord of the Sith? Be a funny gag. Maybe it would be offensive. I don't know. I think it would be funny. And it potentially could also be offensive. I don't know. What do you see?
Your future will come of its own accord, trust me. Sometimes navel gazing at it doesn't get you anywhere. I wouldn't worry about it too much if I were you. You remind me a bit of Nomi. And that can't be all bad.
Who's Nomi?
Nomi Sunrider. She came late to the Force, just as you have, and became one of the greatest Jedi ever. Oh, fine, fine lass. Whether you'll follow the same path remains to be seen. For one thing, we'll never get anywhere if you stand around chatting up old men all day.
So, you're some kind of observer?
Nonsense. If I ever refused to help you when you asked, how confused can one person be anyway? One thing I will say is that this little escapade does remind me a bit of my adventuring days before the war. Those were exciting times. Or at least it would remind me of those times if we didn't stand around. What's keeping you? You're too young to be so talkative. Shoo! Shoo!
Journal entry added. Hopefully we can all be as cool as Jolie someday. You know what I mean? Because Jolie will go into the enemy camp in his boxers and wait for motherfuckers to just give him a cross eye. And then just boom. Destroy droid. All your droids. All your investments are gone. The Zerka Corporation. Don't let this old man get near your droids. They'll deduct it from your bonus.
Greetings. You've heard of that awful business on Idian, yes? Our corporate outpost there has been destroyed by the Wookiee savages. This could put back the use of Wookiee labor considerably. We may even have to abandon the planet completely. Well, what can you do? Sorry. Was there something you needed?
What do they do here?
We do some mining here, and are responsible for local shipping and support of the Sith on Korriban. Our starport is mostly just freighters and such. But we do get many travelers that come here to learn from the Sith. This office is actually our administrative headquarters for this region. Rather inauspicious, isn't it? We offer good prices here to those traders that keep the colony supplied.
It's exactly like the one on Kashyyyk. It's not any more inconspicuous than something that we've already seen.
Do come.
Who are these people? Prospective Sith.
I've had 2 friends killed by the Sith already. It must be some kind of test. I'll survive and make it into the academy. I know it.
Man, Twilight Ho is like an actual character that joins the Sith. Her and her 400 sisters.
Around.
Go about your business, please, citizen.
All right.
One of Korriban's primary trade routes went through Terrace. Now that it's destroyed, the colony here will have it even harder.
Lurs Kesh.
You there, human? You are the one flying the Ebon Hawk now. I saw you disembarking earlier.
Who wants to know?
Name's Liz. Not that it's important. I don't know you, and you don't know me. What's important is that we've been waiting for this shipment for a month now. I suppose we should be grateful that the shipment arrived to Taurus at all, though, right? Anyway, hand it over and let's finish this.
What are you talking about?
Wait a minute, don't you work for Davik? Just how is it you happen to be flying the Ebon Hawk, anyway?
I stole the Ebon Hawk from him.
Well, when a planet explodes, you gotta expect a few changes. Davik's dead, hey, maybe you can still help me with something. We had arranged for several kilograms of spice to be shipped to us here aboard the Ebon Hawk. Perhaps Davik left it on board. I suspect if it is, it would be in the container we gave him, locked and requiring a code. Maybe you have seen such a thing, human.
Yeah, what's it worth to you?
1,000 credits, and perhaps more, if you're interested. What do you say to that?
You can take a look at it.
Excellent. Set the code on the container to red 47. When you get the spice, bring it to me here. I'll wait for you.
Alright, thanks, buddy. Not much to say.
Greetings, friend. Fellow pilot, are you? Wouldn't mind taking a spin in the Ebon Hawk myself. Sleek ship, that one.
What does everybody here know about the Hawk?
In a small colony like this, everyone knows everyone's business.
It's better than thinking too much about all the Sith lurking about here. The Hawk's been in and out of here for ages, and out-of-the-way starport is a good place for, privateers. Not saying you are one.
And what if I am?
Wouldn't make any difference to me. Just wish I had a ship like that myself. Business is steady here with the Sith, but it's a boring haul.
In case you're forgetting, partner, they don't exactly want us talking about their business.
Who cares about them? I've seen some of those things they're digging up in those ruins in the valley. Pretty creepy, if you ask me.
What have they been digging up?
Weird artifacts. Looks like alien stuff. Maybe aliens lived on Korriban a long time ago. Who knows?
Don't be stupid. I was talking to one of those
Aliens,
Sith,
how
and he
crazy.
said there are tombs there dating back to when the Sith were here in ancient times.
There were Sith here in ancient times? Sounds like he was feeding you a line. Korriban's only been settled for a short time.
So says you. He said the planet was settled by the Sith long time ago. And then they all left or something. Those tombs are really important to them.
Tombs, eh? That makes the stuff they send us even creepier. Wish I didn't have to haul it around.
Where do you take the things?
We used to haul everything to Terrace, and the Sith would take it off our hands there. Not sure where we'll be bringing it now.
Do you have any of those artifacts now?
No, we're not due for another shipment for at least another week.
Fuck. Alright, well, how do you take these things? How do you get one of these?
It's in a valley on the surface, beyond some mountains to the east. No land route. That's why they have us fly in.
Shows what you know. The Academy has a route through the mountain. That's how all their students get to the excavation site.
Well, regardless, the Sith don't let anybody near that valley. Even when we land, they watch us like a Drabarian hawk and want us gone quickly.
So no one can sneak into the valley by ship?
Not a chance. You'd be better off sneaking through the Academy if you want to go to the valley.
Ha! Now that'd be a sight to see.
I mean, we'll see it. I mean, it is a Let's Play.
Sure thing. Good flying, friend.
Ooh. So, I just had this image in my mind, and there was a group that was trying to mod this game for a long time. Maybe I've, or remake it. Maybe I've talked about them already, but I just think about these windows that are supposed to be behind here, and just if they redid this building so it was like a window looking out on a terrace, and you have these two guys that they're almost at like an airport bar, if you've ever been to like a Fridays in the airport in between layovers, right? Which is kind of what these guys are doing. I just pictured like this yellow glass mirror right here, and these guys are both just like having a drink, you know. I mean, I imagine. Oh shit! Did I get stuck? Dude, Jolie, come on.
What?
Nope, not you.
Sure.
Thank you. I just imagine those are the drinks. They should be drinking them. But like having that kind of talk right here, kind of like shooting the shit about this like weird situation. These are the kind of talks I wanted out of The Mandalorian, the show. And it just inevitably became like, you know, super baby superhero time. Everybody's a big old poussoir on that show. They're just like, you would think that me, a Mandalorian, would ever hurt a little green baby like this? Unbelievable. Unbelievable how insensitive people are to Mandalorians in this universe. Mandalorians spray paint literally in our universe and have self-expression. They don't just kill people like they're supposed to, because not everybody has to be a good guy. No. And I'm offended that you would think that way. I hate Star Wars now. I hate it so much. It sucks. And everybody who works on it is sucks or works for somebody who sucks. And that person that sucks is controlling their decisions. I can't talk about this all day, but I could. Tol Apgar.
Greetings, sentient. Are you willing to engage in a hand of Pazak? I am afraid that there are few takers on Korriban. It would be good to have a little fun for once.
I want to ask you some questions.
There are others here to answer your questions, sentient. And to be honest, if we are not going to engage in some entertaining sport, I would rather be alone.
We'll do a Pazak day.
Come back anytime, sentient. I'm always willing to play.
See, that's the quality stuff. The quality content you're getting on the channel, people. Now, another yellow background on my computer. Exit from Dreshte. What do you mean, exit from... This is to get out of... Oh, here's the entrance. Oh, it's so the port is right on the Sith Academy here. Very, very cool. Very cool indeed. This was always one of my favorite parts when I played this game. It was just one of the more developed areas, and this was always the stuff I come back to when I think about like what makes these games great. It's the world building with the Sith and going to the Sith temples and learning the background, and you know, this was my favorite world. I think Tatooine's good to remember. Manon is the worst for sure. That one's boring. I don't even fucking remember what was the last scene because it's been so long since we played on Manon that it's like hard. But yeah, this place obviously has a ton of character. This would have been so nice for them to remake.
Leave me be. Can't you see that I'm busy?
Nursing that soul patch. I feel you, hombre.
Isn't that obvious? You must be very sharp to possess such an astute sense of perception. Obviously deaf, however, since I asked you to leave.
No, I can hear. It's just, I guess I just have a good sense of perception. Can I ask you some questions?
No, you may not. I'm busy amusing myself, and I'm not going to miss any of the fun. Now get lost before I teach you a lesson.
Yeah, friendly guy.
You are neither a Sith, nor do you bear the medallion of a student of this facility.
I'm Darth Revan. I was Lord of the Sith. Let me in.
I see. On your... You are neither a...
Force persuade.
I have been conditioned to resist mental... No one.
What's this medallion?
It is the device given to one who has been... If one of the Sith decides you are worthy, you will... I have... On...
Fine. Oh, here we go. These guys have to give me their medallions.
Please, don't hurt me. I am too weak with hunger.
You'll get your turn soon enough, fool. And when you do, I will be there, laughing as you collapse from heat exhaustion and Mikkel's beatings.
I have to stand at attention, please. Don't distract me, whoever you are.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to prove my worth to enter the Sith Academy.
He's like kind of becoming Seinfeld. To enter the Sith Academy here. We were told that if we stood here long enough, we would be worthy.
Seems like not much to do to be worthy of anything. How long you been up to it, boy?
We've been here for so many days. I'm so hungry. Some of us have died, but I must be strong. I must. I will keep standing. Here, have a bit of food. No, please put it away. I can't accept any. Mikkel said he's the Sith over there, watching us. I must be strong. He'll find me worthy. Oh, I gotta talk to Mikkel again, I guess. That was a super annoying voice. I'm sorry. I expected it to just be one line. I don't have any voice. I'm just gonna go on this. I'm just gonna go on with this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for anybody who finds this really annoying. Even I might find this super annoying when I'm done. Sorry.
Is there something specific you wanted?
Are you Miku?
And what if I am?
Why making the boys stand over there?
That is the whole point. Personally, I think it's wonderful fun. Those fools actually think that if they stand there long enough, I'll let them become a Sith. Idiots. A Sith is not a bantha, all endurance and no brains. A Sith would fight for his life, no matter the odds. If these rot grubs are as stupid as they seem, then they deserve their fate.
This isn't a real test, though, right? I mean...
Oh, it's a test, all right. It's a test to see if they're actually fool enough to die. If they don't, however, I certainly wouldn't admit them just for that accomplishment.
Why not just shoot them where they stand? It would at least be more direct.
That's what I would do.
Of course that's what you would do.
He turns around off the camera.
I think I'll go for some dinner. It will be fun to think of them while I gorge myself. They'll still be here in an hour or two, surely.
Hey, you were talking to him. Where did he go? Did he tell you I was worthy?
He said he's gonna trick you and he won't let you into the academy.
What? I've wasted all this time? I could have been so foolish. I could have died. I'll find another way in. I'll swear I'll show him. Thank you.
Leave me be. I won't just...
Then they're gonna die.
You talk to Meckle?
Meckle is tricking you. I'm not the guy anywhere.
Oh, no.
Oh, damn, he just died. But can I loot his body? Man, that's depressing. I guess they deserve it just because, like, come on, bro. You really gonna try to join the evil bad guys club? That's the worst club. That's the worst club. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I guess you reap what you sow. Dreshte. Let's go find Mr. Yum Yums here. I imagine he should be... Who's this? Was this lady in the back before? Yutharaban?
Is there something you need, Jedi? Make it good, for I have little patience.
What do you call me, Jedi?
You think me a fool? You think I do not
Ooh, I like the tattoos. Nice.
You are far
It's
from
nice
the
to see an
first
alt
Jedi who's
Twi'lek.
come here after all, willing to abandon that decrepit order of yours.
Who are you? You sexy purple alien with tattoos? And the only Twi'lek who isn't one of the exact same model that the other 56 Twi'leks are? Main character energy?
Who am I? You must not have been in Korriban for very long. Either that or you have been feeling your way about blindly. Luckily for you, I am in a charitable mood. I am Yutharaban, second only to Master Uthar of the Sith Academy here in Dresde. I am the one who decides which of the few of the many hopefuls who travel here to train actually become a Sith. Why? Is it your desire to enter the Academy? Is that why you are here?
If she doesn't appear until you go to the door, it's better that way, because I think it helps the story. What if I said I was already a Sith?
I would consider that an amusing ploy to try and enter the Academy. Why? Who will you claim to be? Darth Malak himself?
What about Darth Revan?
What about Revan? Revan is dead. You may have a natural gift for the Force, human, but you've no gift for lies.
You must be pretty powerful. If you can't even tell I just told you the damn truth. I see. About joining you.
You've heard enough, have you? So what is it to be? Are you here to be a Sith or not?
Yeah, I want to join the Sith.
Ah, so you are just another hopeful after all. Or are you? There is something odd about you that I cannot place. Obviously, you are a Jedi. One who is very strong in the Force, it seems. So were you a part of the Order for very long? Did they train you?
What difference does it make? I had forgotten most of my training, it seems.
What an odd thing to say. Even stranger, I do not sense any deception within you. You are a curious puzzle.
Is it possible I didn't lie to you, Purple Lady?
With that kind of power, you could become a great Sith. Perhaps, if I let you. Does that interest you?
What if I already was one? Yeah, you want to accept me into the academy?
You must not think much of Sith Masters to try that little trick. I won't hold it against you, however. It shows initiative. But I do desire a real answer to my question. Does it interest you?
I suppose it would interest me, yeah.
A strange response indeed. Is your mind maladjusted in some way? You should make for an interesting pupil indeed. I will take you to the academy, and we shall see if you are ready to join the ranks of the Sith. I have only one other question. These companions of yours, they will not be coming with you, I presume?
They're slaves, don't worry.
My hearing's not so good. I'm just pleased my nice master doesn't beat me so much anymore. Yes, sir.
There's something odd about this servant of yours. No matter. Make sure they don't disturb your training or cause trouble.
Man, they really vet their employees here.
Now,
here at the Sith Academies. Yeah, let's go.
Then let us leave.
They really vet their hires. Do you have the requirements? Do you have the skills? I think so. All right, well, here's all of our systems. This is why that's why they got reduced to 2 people.
A young human bristling with the Force?
A human that has had some training, it seems, Master Uthar. Very promising, I think.
Promising? That one's not worthy to lick spit off your shoes, Master.
That I'll judge for myself, thank you. Tell me, human, what do you know of the ways of the Sith? What preconceptions has your mind been polluted with?
I know more about the Sith than you. I've just forgotten.
Indeed. Perhaps you would care to demonstrate for us the powers of a Sith Master. No? Then perhaps you shall keep your foolishness to yourself and actually learn something. The Jedi equate the light with goodness and strength, and the dark with weakness and evil. That is their tradition, and it is truly no surprise that they cling to it for comfort. We, however, do not treat the Force as a burden. We treat it as a gift, a thing to be celebrated. We use it to acquire power over others. And why should we not? Because the Jedi say we should not. We are as the Force is meant to be. The Jedi would hide that from you. They would tell you the dark side is too quick, too easy. All so that they may never challenge the passions that lie within them. Joining with us means realizing your true potential.
He has a different posture than some of the other characters.
For the sake of hidebound shamans and their antiquated notion of order. Be what you were meant to be. What say you, Lasho? Are you ready to learn the secrets of the dark side? Dare you?
I dare, Master Uthar. I am ready.
Brash and fiery, as expected. Turn that passion to your advantage.
And they've already established some of these characters, which is nice.
Are you ready?
I am, Master. More than ready.
I sense much anger within you, young one. That is good. That will provide you power. And Shardan, what of you?
I am always ready.
I see. You had best gather your wits for the trial ahead, boy, or you will not last. And you, young human, does this interest you? Are you ready to learn more of what I speak?
Yeah, what about my companions?
Your slaves. They are irrelevant. They may accompany you so long as they do not interfere with us or with your training. Are you ready or not, young one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Are you? I can see into your heart, young human, and I see the dark kernel that is there.
I see the dark pea pod, and I'm wondering if it's going to become a little pea tree, a darkness pea tree, an evil pea oak, a forest of evil edible vegetables of darkness grown in dark, nutrient-dense soils fueled with demon phosphorus-based fertilizers.
As Master said, none of you are true Sith yet. For that to occur, one of you must do enough of worth.
Dread.
Gain enough prestige to be selected. What is an act of worth? You must learn that for yourselves. Remember that you are competitors here. Fight for your destiny.
It's a tournament arc, boys.
If you wish to gain a lead over your competitors, the first of you to learn the code of the Sith and tell me of it will be rewarded. The rest is for you to discover. Welcome to the dark side, my children. Your one chance.
It's like evil Harry Potter.
Yeah.
No wonder this was the most fun one. You know, the most fun aspect of the game. Cool. Cool, 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 cool. I wonder if I walk into this next room, is somebody gonna attack me?
Ah, there you are. My favorite prospect for the year.
Favorite?
Absolutely. By my estimation, you are far more likely to achieve the prestige necessary to join the Sith than any of the others. As a matter of fact, I am so certain of that I'm willing to offer you an opportunity of the once-in-a-lifetime variety. Would you like to hear it?
Yeah.
Good. I do so adore someone who's willing to take a chance. As I said, you're no doubt going to be the one whom Uthar chooses to become a Sith. With my help, of course. Once that occurs, he will take you into the Valley of the Dark Lord.
Kill him.
Nagasado to administer the final test. There you and I will be alone with him. The perfect time to, shall we say, arrange for a change in the Academy's leadership?
Yeah.
The tomb is an ancient ruin on the surface that was visited years ago by Darth Revan and Darth Malak. They discovered a star map there of great importance.
You don't say. Well, the Master loves tombs, don't you, Master?
Reaching that map at Vader is part of the final test.
Jolie is so fucking hilarious.
It is not the tomb that is important. That Uthar will be alone is what is important.
YouTube reaction face. Make your mouth as big as possible. She said what? And then she ate what? And then they said right on the cover. Yeah, you want me to kill him?
Is that such a daunting prospect?
Sith do it all the time. I do it for less.
The task alone. Or is it
Trust me, don't even sweat it. It's no problem. Seriously, you don't need to convince me this much. It's pretty much all I do.
Simple matter.
Yeah, sure.
I'm so glad you see it my way.
I've watched the Star Wars movies. I know that they betray people. I know that's the game.
Don't disappoint me.
The rule of two. Can you tell me about the code of the Sith?
I can help you understand it. Would you like to hear it? Peace is a lie. There is only passion.
Oh, it's the opposite of the Jedi.
I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me. Simple words, yet easily misunderstood.
I think I got it.
I am not surprised. The Force is strong with you. Master it and it shall serve you well.
Do you know anything more about Darth Revan?
Revan? You mean Darth Malak's former master?
Yeah, me.
Very little. I never met him personally, though I heard he was a very powerful man. Very charismatic. In the end, Revan was outshone by his pupil. Such is the way of the Sith. Why? Is this dead man of importance to you?
So we wouldn't recognize Revan if the two of you met?
Is there any reason I should? Beside the fact I did not know Revan in life. Revan was known for wearing a full helmet and cape. Perhaps Revan's body had been disfigured by the power of the Force. It is not unheard of. Regardless, I doubt I shall be meeting Revan anytime soon.
She got goofed on.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You have...
No gear for me? Alright, well. That's a bit stinky. I just want to get any of the stuff I'm bound to walk into out of the way. Because this is going to be a very explory area. But yeah, this is a great part of the game here. One of my favorite parts of the whole game. One of the most memorable. One of the ones that everybody who thinks about the Sith as an organization thinks about, because of course, you know, it's the gold standard, right, for writing lore. A standard they've fallen, a standard really they've never even reached in certainly the movies, maybe the animated stuff. I haven't seen enough of the animated stuff to say, but now it is time again, ladies and gentlemen, for another one of our wonderful little pointed topics that we like to do here in the Knights of the Old Republic Let's Play series. We're going to talk about something a lot lighter than 2020 because 2021 already sucks one. The topic is plants. Plants, yes. Plants. I love plants. I own, I think, 23 to 24 plants between me and my girlfriend at the moment. And at the end of this video, there will be a little plant tour with certain explanations about these plants that I recorded this morning so that I could edit it later. Anyways, why do I love plants so much? What is there to love about plants? Well, plants are, the way I think of them in terms of my house is that, you know, if you go and you get a random tchotchke, right? You're going out to Hobby Lobby or Home Goods, and you're like, oh my God, this is the cutest little ceramic elephant I've ever seen. He's so adorable and so cute. Oh my God, this should go right on top of my cabinet. What happens, right? If you really like the thing, you're looking at it for a little while, looks cool. But like anything that's just a possession, what does it do? It fades into the background. It fades into, I remember this when I need to clean it. And plants are different. Plants are different because they're something natural. They're alive. They beautify your home. They're wonderfully interesting in and of themselves. Plants are the source of most medicines. Advil, Aleve, derivatives of the chemicals within those are super duper common for making all sorts of herbs and medicines and spices and scientific, you know, going forwards. You can eat plants, obviously. You can grow vegetables and grow them on your own and grow your own food. Some of these plants become trees and they grow fruit, and fruit's delicious. And yes, there will be one of my fruit trees in the video, my little tiny ass Calmondon, which makes really great juice for cocktails, and I take full advantage of that. And there's something that you form sort of a relationship with in some kind of way. You're fostering and you're nurturing something in the way that you might, you watch your pets or your children grow. You take care of them and you feel pride when they do well. And at a certain point, it stops kind of becoming work. It's not all that difficult once you've sort of adapted the skill set. And you can get all sorts of plants, and you can have really cool, super large plants. And I've heard studies that people who have plants in their homes, even if they're fake plants, they make people happier because it's this semblance of kind of bringing the outdoors indoors. And so I just love plants. I originally started, though, because I wanted to grow my own food, and I was, in terms of like real consumption, I failed, and I'm still working on it. But in terms of sometimes I've frequently had herbs. I have sometimes had food. I've grown potatoes, I've grown citrus, and I've grown herbs, basically, successfully. I've tried to grow other things. I did that, and then I was already into kind of growing it for my food, and then we decided, why not try houseplants? Because I'm sure they're easier than growing plants for food. And in terms of like growing citrus fruits or vegetables, it is easier. So we started with one. I don't even remember which one was our first houseplant. I think it may have been a flamingo plant. I could be wrong. It was among the earliest houseplants that we bought. And then Gwen got a peace lily that eventually died. And we had to really learn about underwatering and overwatering and fertilizer and light requirements and all these different aspects about taking care of plants. And I think getting into plants can be daunting because I'm sure a lot of people that listen to this or may listen to this are plant killers. They're stage one. They're basic. They don't even have like the first dungeon gear yet. They suck dick at taking care of plants because they don't know anything, and it's all right. It's perfectly okay. Everybody, well, hopefully not. I mean, not hopefully, but I don't think literally everybody sucks dick at some point, you know? And everybody has to graduate from that to moving on to bigger stuff. So the things that anybody should know about keeping plants and my tips and tricks that will prevent you from being a plant killer. Here we go. I should just call this video Taylor's 10 Tricks to Teaching Your Tillandsia Not to Tear Away and Die. Not using a T for that one. So yeah, first thing you should do when you're thinking about getting a plant, you go to the plant store. Well, the first thing, even before you do that, sorry, if you do not have a home, if you have a home that does not have at least one window that gets a fair amount of light, and what I mean by fair is that at some point in the day, the light directly shines through the window, right? Maybe not all day, maybe for like an hour and a half, whatever. It gets through there, and then there's a pretty good coverage indirectly of like not the light actually shining through, but you know, being super bright through that window. You qualify as a plant person because almost every plant requires light, and light is measurable. And a lot of the times as plant owners, I think we don't realize that all of our plants grow in the outdoors, and almost all of them can survive higher amounts of light than we think they can. And that light is necessary for the plant to do its bodily functions. It's, you know, to exist and do what it needs to do. And for anything else involved in our care to actually be needing to happen, it needs to have light. So, and you know, it can be challenging moving from a new, you know, from one house to another. You know, like me, I have less light in a lot of spaces in this room, you know, in our house than I'd like to. And then there might be another part of the house where we'd really like to have lots of plants, but you know, it just doesn't get the right amount of light. So you want to identify, is there a place I can put this thing and give it reasonable light? I don't want to just stick it, you know, by my, you know, interior kitchen where there is no natural light at all and expect things to go well. It won't. So we'll start with that. Light drives the whole system, and anybody with a regular window can do this. All right, then the next question is, what plant are you going to buy? What plants are you interested in? What are some low maintenance plants? And really, the low maintenance plants at nurseries far outnumber the high maintenance plants. And even some of the high maintenance plants aren't that high maintenance if you just know what to look for. So with very little deviation, every plant is going to want bright indirect light. What that means is these plants can only handle X amount of direct hours of sunlight before they start burning. And when a plant starts burning, it looks literally like it's been burnt. It has brown, crumbly parts of its leaves. In fact, and I forgot to say this when I did the tour, my most thriving plant, my Monstera deliciosa, what I've had for a long time, when I first bought it, it got burned because I put it out by the front door and I thought it was behind something, and it got that extremely hot midday sun and on it for like 3 hours, and it just looked like somebody had held like a stake to it, and that it had you know been physically burned. So that's what happens basically. Some of these leaves are too delicate to handle that amount of direct light. But most plants are like in that 1 to 2 hour range, where if it's not shining directly into the window all day long, it should be okay. And if your plant says that it's like lower end and it starts drooping and you've been doing everything else right, maybe move it a little bit farther away out of the direct line of sight from the window. And I mean, even moving it just like a foot back from the window sometimes is actually more dramatic of a light change than you would think. The visual light in terms of heat from a window changes a lot, even as you go a small distance away from the window. And if you want, you can get a light meter to be able to check this stuff easily. Some of these are really cheap. They're like $35 or something, and you can easily tell how much light there is in terms of visual light. If you want to get a spectrometer, you'll see all the wider ranges of light that's available. It doesn't really matter that much if you're talking about outdoor light, because the light that comes from the sun is full spectrum enough. But we'll get into talks of grow lights later. So any plant you're going to get is going to be bright indirect light. It's going to be, they probably like a little bit more acidic soil, which is going to be the regular soil you're going to get from the store most of the time, especially if it's like organic and it has some kind of decaying matter, because the decaying matter acidifies soil. And overwhelmingly, most things like soil slightly acidic, and most soil naturally is. So you just get a natural soil, or like, whatever soil you, and then those plants are just going to want to be watered like, semi-regularly. Like when the first inch of soil dries out, like if you stuck, I have average size hands. If I stick up to my second digit here into the soil, and like up to my second digit here into the soil, and it feels dry, I'll water it. And when you water it, you're going to want to water the whole thing until water is coming out of the bottom of the drainage hole. And so yeah, you're going to want to find, almost every plant is invariably going to want to do this. And some of the plants that are, pretty good beginner plants as they are marketed, and you will find some deviation, especially if you buy a plant that looks sick from the store. You might not be able to rehab it. You might not be skilled enough to rehab it yet, or have a setup to be able to do that. Would be a pothos would be one good one. A lot of people say ZZ plants are good beginner plants depending on how you do with them. Succulents, but I stray from succulents because they're so extreme that people want to water them frequently, and they're worried they're going to kill it, and then they overwater it and it rots. I would say another good beginner plant. Yeah, I just think pothos is like the really, pretty easy. ZZs are really pretty easy. Monstera can be pretty easy. I'm a little bit jaded because plants that I haven't had issues with, like Monstera is prone to pests, and you can lose your Monstera to pests, but they're easy in the sense that they grow a lot and their requirements can be lower. Like a Monstera won't die if you put it in like not the greatest light, it just won't grow. But if you give it any like good light, it'll explode. The money tree is the best tree I've ever grown in terms of growth. Like it needs the least amount of light for how much it's going to grow. But yeah, those are all good ones to take note of. And if you're interested in a specific plant, just look it up on YouTube and see what people say about it. Some ones that are not good for beginners. I mean, peace lilies are okay. The thing is that they droop, and you have to know like the life cycle of a spathe, and you need to be fertilizing sometimes too. Or it will just not be good. Ferns are not always great beginner plants because they can be really picky and about getting dry or having bad humidity requirements. And there is another plant, I can't remember the name of it. It is sharp and triangular, and it is very pretty, but it's a plant that naturally goes into a form of dormancy, I think, regardless of like exterior temperature, and you can kill the plant not realizing that it's gone dormant, even though it's tropical, and that's not a very common thing for tropical plants to do. So some plants to stay into, some plants to stay away from, but mostly all of these plants, they're going to be tropical. They're going to have the same requirements. They're going to want slightly acidic soil. And one thing that they're going to want, additionally to all those things we talked about, slightly acidic soil, bright indirect sunlight, they're going to want well-draining soil. What does that mean? What does well-draining soil mean? Well-draining soil means that the soil doesn't hold on to that much water. It doesn't hold on, the soil never really gets wet. Now, you'll listen to plant tubers say that the soil needs to be moist. And I had a tough time explaining this too, or even knowing exactly what that meant, until I heard Summer Rain Oaks describe what moist soil means. So when I'm saying moist soil, what I'm meaning is moist is descriptive. If you've ever had a fresh slice of chocolate cake, cake, not fudgy like fudge, cake, and you bite in and it's not dry, it's moist. Or if you cooked chicken right and it didn't dry out and become hard to bite through and like dry out your mouth, almost astringent, moist. You bite through, it's not wet, it's moist. Think about it. Maybe I can say it in terms of cheeseburgers too. When you get a nice burger from when there's a chef there that cooks it right, from I don't know, fucking Whataburger or whatever, right? And you bite into it and your hands don't get wet, but you feel that like meat juice when you're biting into that burger and you're just like, oh my God, it's so good. That is moist. When you go to Five Guys and you grab it and it starts greasing out onto your hands, that's wet. Okay? Moist is just, it has this nice moisture into it and doesn't have any water on it that it hasn't absorbed. That's what moist means. Dry, in terms of plants, means I can put my digit down in the soil and it feels grainy. It doesn't feel like there is any volume of liquid in there at all. And some plants want to dry out completely. So when you put your finger in there, it sounds like it's going to be super dry. And some plants want to mostly dry out, to where if it feels like dry, like close to that enough to what I've described, you can give it water. And most of the times these plants that are like, you must dry out, it's not that important. Like it just, you know, a lot of the times it's simulating like tropical environments where there will be huge downpours of water and then not much. So they'll get like super doused and then super dry. And yeah, so this is how it's up. So yeah, you don't have to worry about that too much. Just know that the soil needs to be well draining. How do we make well draining soil? You add things to it. So you can go to the store, you can get some potting mix. Usually potting mix for succulents is made to be more high draining, and almost every plant will prefer a more draining mixture than a less draining mixture. So you can be a little bit more liberal with these additives sometimes. You can even go like 1-to-1 on these additives with the soil. And you'll be fine. You add things like perlite and vermiculite to your soil, really perlite to air it up. It's those little white balls that you see in fertilizer bags, and I always thought they were, not fertilizer bags, soil bags, and I always thought that they were fertilizer when I looked at them originally, but they're there because they create pockets of air inside, or pockets where water won't touch the soil and will just straight drain through the pockets inside of your soil, and that makes the soil drain water, makes it hold less water. So it's more likely to be moist than wet. We're leaving less of a chance for water to just sit inside of the soil, which in nature happens very rarely because the soil just keeps going down for the most part, and a lot of things don't naturally sit on top like immediately limestoney layers. So those are all the things that almost every plant, when you go to the store, is going to want, right? Well draining, bright indirect light, water when the first inch gets dry or something. And then you have your fertilizer needs, which the rule of thumb with fertilizer is, what is it, like a 3-2-1? If the ratio is wrong, I'll put it up. But it's like a 3-2-1 ratio of fertilizer. And you can go like, if it's like a multiple of this, like 6-4-2 or something, then that's totally fine. Those number ratios of houseplant fertilizer. What does fertilizer do? Why do we need it? Fertilizer will always be in ratios, right? So it'll be all these numbers, right? 3-2-1. 10-1-1, which would be like a super high nitrogen fertilizer, probably made of fish meal or something, right? Or like bat guano. 4-8, whatever. What does that mean? It means NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. And they're kind of in descending order in terms of what is the most important thing for a plant. And they do different things for the plant. Nitrogen is responsible for leafy growth on your plant. It's responsible for the top growth and putting on size, explicitly putting on stuff. And I know it's sometimes with citrus growing, if you're providing nitrogen to a plant, it won't flower because it's trying to grow and it won't want to do both of those things at once. And it can be frustrating for a citrus grower. So if you want citrus quickly, buy a plant that's fairly established. These plants take forever to grow before they're marketable. So, just give them more time. I don't know. The next one is phosphorus. Phosphorus is used for the root growth. It's common in root starter fertilizer. So if you're repotting a plant, which we will cover after this, a lot of times you're going to want to start with some root starter fertilizer and then go from there. And that will allow your plant to easily create feeder roots, those tiny roots that go out into the soil and establish themselves to create the network for which the soil will use to bring in its water and nutrients. And then the last one, potassium, is sort of just a general health element that keeps the plant healthy overall. If your plant is sick, it might have not been getting enough of that potassium, but I don't know. It just depends on the sickness. You know, a perfectly healthy guy can get a bacterial infection, you know, just depends. But yeah, NPK. And almost every indoor plant, because it doesn't have huge fertilizer requirements, because it's not needing to grow food like giant tubers or, you know, carrots or super big greens or like fruit and stuff. It's just going to want a basic indoor plant fertilizer once a week not once a week when you water, which I tend to do weekly, and if it's too much or too little, I adjust from there. If your plant is growing. So you'll see a lot of stuff online talking about growing seasons when you do that, talk about this shit. And it's usually to account for the fact that there are seasons in a lot of places that are not Florida, you know, or the tropics, where things are too cold to grow sometimes of the year. And when they're not, from a very few exceptions, was it Aglaonema? Was that the type of plant? I think I'm off. Maybe, I don't know. The thing I was referencing before about that one plant that goes through dormancy even though it doesn't get cold, you'll know if you watch this. Seasons. A plant only needs fertilizer when it is growing. Plants that are too cold will stop growing. They don't need the energy. They need to conserve their energy, so they stop intaking and they chill. And they try to resist. And when it gets warm again, then they will be open to growing. So in places with seasons, when it gets too cold or it freezes, plants have different survival strategies to staying alive. One of those things is they get rid of all their leaves. That's why the leaves turn yellow and red in the fall, and then they aren't there in the wintertime, because it requires energy for the plant to uptake leaves. That's why if you have sick leaves, you should pick them off, because it's only taxing the plant for the plant to have to keep those on. It's like limbs that are dying. If they're not holding the plant up, they're dragging the plant down. And a quick thing to remembering what each thing does in that NPK ratio, which is something I stole from Plant Journal, Daryl Chang, is up, down, all around. So nitrogen controls the up, phosphorus controls the down, and potassium controls all around every aspect of the plant. And, you know, I don't expect you guys to remember all of this shit right now, but maybe you can refer back to this at a later date. So we've covered the fertilizer, we covered all that stuff. The final thing to decide what you're going to do when you first get that plant is, are you going to keep it in the nursery pot? Or maybe even take that nursery pot and put it into just a decorative pot on the outside because it looks pretty? Or are you going to repot it into something with a drainage hole? And you will need a plate or a tray underneath the thing that you are draining from, so that the excess water can run off. This is one of the most important things to not being a plant killer. So all of you guys who are prospective plant killers out there, you should pay attention to this part. A plant, every plant I've ever owned, and I have about 24 with my girlfriend now, and I've probably owned about 35 in the last 5 years maybe. None of them can tolerate sitting in wet soil, sitting in water. When a soil gets too wet and a plant is sitting in wet, but leaving its roots wet, it gets something called root rot. Root rot comes from a fungus that overgrows in the soil and causes the roots to die. It's like if the inside of your organs rotted away in your body. And it's very, very hard. I would say it's impossible to stop once it's happened. It causes really bad damage to your plant's roots, and you're better off throwing it away if it's gotten root rot. What is the chief cause of root rot? Wet soil caused by people planting plants in pots with no drainage. So the worst thing you can do, and some people do this because they are super duper duper anal about watching their plant needs, and I know Daryl Chang weighs his soil and counts the exact amount of water that can be retained by the soil. You don't be that guy. Just go this way first, because you will kill a plant doing that, and I've killed them. I've planted plants in like gummy bear bottles, and they've died because they got root rot one time and it died because I overwatered one time in a year. Do not plant a plant in a soil, in a pot or whatever that has no hole on the bottom. Do not do that, okay? What you can do instead is you can take your nursery pot and just sit it inside of the pot that has no drainage hole. And when you water the plant, water will come out the drainage hole, and you can just simply take it out of the decorative pot and dump the water out and then stick it in there. Give it, 10, 15 minutes, wait for that water to drain through. Oops. And, oh God, I think I've, help. There you go. And let it come out. The other thing to do is you can use a regular pot with a drainage hole, and you can just literally plant it in there with soil. And by the way, when I'm saying nursery pot, I mean those plastic pots that you get from the nursery, and we'll get a little bit more in depth about different pots after this, but you can plant it in a terracotta or something that has a drainage hole directly, and that water will just come out of the bottom of the pot, and you'll have a tray or a little plate that goes underneath, and when that water comes out, you'll chuck the water into the sink or wherever, right? Outdoors, onto other plants, I don't know, whatever you want to do. And that should be enough if you have well-draining soil, with enough with that well-draining soil to prevent any issues with about 99% of all houseplants. Do not, and when you're watering this, and I know this, I've made this sound intimidating right now, you want to create very well-draining soil, and you want to water thoroughly so that water is always coming out of the bottom of the soil when you water it, because you don't want your plant, you want the whole height of the soil to get moist so that those roots will grow and they'll have that optimum growth and become stronger, and then they'll learn to absorb more energy so that they can become healthier and stronger. If you're not putting enough water in and the water is not coming out of the bottom of the soil, then you're kind of malnourishing your plants in a way. It's okay with things like succulents or semi-succulents like ZZ plants, where they're really good at holding on to water, but it's generally not what you should be doing. You should be watering it, having so much drainage, like, you could even go 1-to-1 perlite and soil or something like that. I wouldn't do 1-to-1 vermiculite with soil, because vermiculite works a little bit differently. Vermiculite actually holds onto water, so it actually makes the soil better at holding water, which is not what you want in 90% of the cases. But the perlite with the soil, your soil will never get wet enough to kill it, basically, unless the pot doesn't have drainage. So basically, you could even take the thing under the shower hose, and which is what a lot of people do to water their plants. Just put them under the sink, get the thing wet. The extra water that the soil can't hold because of the perlite will fall out, and then you just leave that in the sink, and then put your plant back up, and then you test to see how dry it is. And eventually, if the weather's the same, you should have the same variables. Be like, I'll water it every week, whatever, and then it'll be like low maintenance. It'll be like no maintenance, right? And then if your plant is growing, the best thing to do, again, as I said, with fertilizer, if your plant's not growing, just give it the water. When it dries out, give it more, and with the same stuff I already told you. If your plant is growing, as in if it's putting on new leaves, if you're seeing new leaves, if you're seeing new fronds come up or whatever, and we're not talking about like fruit-related stuff like flowers, if it's leaves, then you can just give it the same houseplant fertilizer for every single plant. And usually use like a liquid fertilizer, and then just put it in there, and just go with the instructions, right? Like do it every other watering or something like that, or every watering, maybe do like half of the amount. Like you may have to figure it out a little bit, but the point is that there's something called a root burn too, that if you over fertilize your plants, you can burn the roots, and then that's the same thing as basically root rot. You just burn and kill your plants. But if your plant is growing, it's always using the fertilizer you give it. So that's why you don't fertilize like in the winter or something when your plant isn't trying to grow, because then those chemicals will actually just burn the plant. So yeah, just only give it fertilizer when it needs it. Don't be preemptive about it. If you see the thing, it will tell you when it wants the fertilizer, basically, is what I'm saying. Other than when you're repotting, you can use the phosphorus fertilizer for that. So get a hole with drainage, or get a pot with drainage. The pots themselves, if they're terracotta, will also have some drainage built into them because the outside of a terracotta pot is porous, so it actually lets water go throughout its sides. So it's something to consider. The terracotta pots themselves can get get this white residue, and that's basically the minerals in your water, because we all have water with minerals in it, like basically small salts and rocks and stones that are very granulated, and we can't tell until they're sieved through the outside of a pot. It'll create this a white stuff on the out of the pot, and you can just wash it off. But some people like the look, some people don't. But yeah, most every other pot is not going to be like that. It's just going to be hard, whether it's a nursery pot or otherwise. It's going to be no drainage. Nursery pots can be a little bit exposed because the soil is literally visible, and usually the roots don't want to have light directly on them. I won't tell anybody anything about this because I've had some plants that have had their roots visible through a plastic container outside or in the window light and didn't seem to do anything. But general teaching is keep the roots dark. So if you have a nursery pot, put it in a decorative pot and just water the nursery pot, and that should be okay, depending. So you've done all these things. You've listened to Taylor. You've gotten your perlite. You've bought your perlite. You've bought your houseplant fertilizer. You have enough light in your house to do this, and you just water, enough. You water the whole thing till water comes out of the bottom. You toss extra water, and there you go. And pretty soon, you're not a plant killer anymore. You're a mediocre plant owner just like me. You can keep plants alive, but there are also harder plants to keep alive, and there might be other stuff you want to do with your plants, you might want to grow food or whatever. Now we've moved on to the topic about maintaining your plants, maintaining a plant once you've had it for a little while. So the things that can go wrong and what to look for. So the number one thing, and this is something that a plant owner may not experience for years and years, is pests. And pests come in all shapes and fucking sizes. The most innocuous pest is fungus gnats. Fungus gnats are like little mosquitoes that sort of fly around the top of your plant. When the top layer of the soil stays too moist, and the gnats will lay their eggs in the top layer of the soil, and they will just be annoying. They will not damage your plant. They're just annoying. That's why they're innocuous. If you let the soil dry out more frequently or use less water for a little while, the gnats will go away or they'll die. You can just use a basic bug trapper, electric thing next to it, and you can just kill all the gnats that way. Or there are little soil treatments that you can do that I think are fairly organic and non-crazy to kill all the gnat eggs in the soil. So I'm sure there's other crazy stuff you can do, but that's what I'm aware of. Other common ones are mealybugs, which are basically scales. They're like a white bug that sits on top of the leaf. Or mealybugs are little fat guys. I've had mealybugs. I don't think I've had scale. There's mealybugs, which they cling to your stuff. You can scrape them off. You can use a Q-tip with vinegar or whatever. I've seen mealybugs, but I've never cleaned them before. There's scale, which you do basically the same thing for. And then there's spider mites and thrips, which are the two more intense ones because they have multiple life cycles and they can get around your plant really easily and they can spread. So thrips have the thrips larva most species of thrips will lay their eggs on your leaves. They'll be really small and they'll start eating your leaves, eating the cellulose right off the top. They're very small to see, and later life cycles of the insect. And this is one I have the experience with because I stopped a thrips outbreak about 2 months ago, and our plants are doing great since. The later life cycle of the plant, they'll be able to fly of these pests and then, get to your other plants. And thrips are difficult to deal with because of that. So there's a lot of different options you have when dealing with these pests. People will talk about neem oil. Neem oil is basically a substance that, basically it's like a neurotoxin to, it's not harmful, really, not that harmful to the plant, but it's like a neurotoxin for insects. They basically like forget that they need to eat and starve and die because they don't feel hungry. There's spinosad soap, which I believe is just paralyzes them, and that's what I use, and it's very safe. Like everything is toxic to something, right? But the question is it low toxicity relatively, and is it unlikely to hurt something else? I think it's most toxic to like birds or fish, which is kind of common. But it's pretty low toxicity as opposed to using something like a systemic, which may not even work that well for you and is toxic. So spinosad soap, you just rub it on your plant, and it paralyzes anything that comes into contact with it or absorbs it, eats it, and then they just die. They just can't move and they die. So I use spinosad soap and a systemic, meaning it goes throughout the plant. You spray it, the plant absorbs it on it through its leaves and through its soil. The plant itself becomes toxic to insects, and it's very stressful. It can be very stressful on the plant. It also kills any beneficial microorganisms you may be benefiting from if you're using organic soil in the soil. It's also illegal in some countries. But when I was trying to solve my thrips, I had seen somebody had success with a deltamethrin based spray before, and I was like, look, I'd rather just kill all these thrips than let them kill all my plants. And if my plants have to work hard to get through this, then that's fine, but it's better than if they died. Well, it didn't fucking work at all, and all we did was maybe hurt a couple of our plants for a little while. And the spinosad was easier, and it worked for me. So, but yeah, you can see thrips. They're very small, but you can see them with your eyes. And spider mites are pretty hard. You might need like a little microscope to be able to see. They also weave little webs on your plants. So if you're looking for like telltale signs of spider mites, there are like white and black spider mites, I believe. So like color is not always that telling, but the webs are usually pretty telling. And they live in clusters towards the center of the leaves, I believe. I haven't dealt with them, but that's what I believe. I've only truly dealt with thrips before. And yeah, that's basically it. I guess the last topic relative to instructionals about plants would be growing your own food, growing fruit, right? So I'm just gonna say fruit. I've tried to grow oranges, mangoes, and calamondin. I've only had success with calamondin, and it can be hard. You should find, if you want fruit, you should find something that's pretty much lush and ready to grow fruit now, because if you go through a stage where you need it to grow, you might be waiting years. And if you're a novice, you might not ever get any fruit off the plant because you might kill it before it even gets you anything, right? Which may seem a little bit selfish, but there's also a reality to this, right? I am not totally privy to the needs of citrus plants. All I will say is that if you are growing outdoor citrus, which you will have to grow your plant outside in direct sunlight, and all of the citrus plants are direct sunlight plants, meaning they need to be outside with the sun directly shining on them, and they love sun exposure. They might droop from heat a little bit, but in the morning they'll pop right back up. If you are growing citrus, you have different fertilizer needs than the indoor plants because they are receiving more energy and they're actually making things. So abandon the fertilizer that you're using for those plants and use something that you'll use periodic plants, and likely your fertilizer will be much higher nitrogen and more frequent. So you have to be more tactical. I don't know that much about it, but most, with like industrial fertilizers, they like do it like I think once a month when it's growing around the drain, like the drip line. The drip line being the area around the outside of the plant where the plant like kind of drips water. That should be like the extent of the roots. And then you basically, if you're using like a hard fertilizer, you just work it into that first layer of the soil, just like maybe the first inch of the soil has some. And then when you water down, the water carries the nutrients down. I like using liquid fertilizer more because I can just mix it with the water and I don't have to think about like massaging like like minerals into my plants. Most people prefer liquid fertilizers for that reason, because they just mix it in the water, shake up the water, pour it in, life is good. And a lot of the best like high nitrogen things, like the fish paste stuff or like the bat guano, they're liquid, so they just go in with your water. And it's, nitrogen is high in decaying things, so it's like fish shit, mashed up fish parts and bat poop, and it doesn't smell that bad. Like I haven't had issues with it, but it is gnarly. So yeah, and again, these are mostly for outdoor plants, so you don't have to worry about using this on the home, and you shouldn't use it in your home because it's way too much nitrogen. So I would recommend just looking at somebody else's video for that. But I guess the last thing I'll cover, because I'm just thinking about, have I said everything that needs to be said about this topic? How do you replant your plants? How do you do that? Okay, you're like, you know what? I want to plant into a pot with a drainage hole. How do I do that? So, and I'll have some accompanying graphics here, but basically what you're going to want to do is you are going to want to you're going to want to pot up. So you're always giving room for the plant to grow. You don't want the pot to be too big, because the roots won't get large enough, and the soil, the water that you put into that soil, it will never get drank, so the water will never dry, the soil will never dry out. Even if you do put a lot of perlite in there, which is a good thing, obviously, it still will get drier slower than the areas where the roots get to. So, if your plant is like this big, you're going to want to go like this big, right? You don't want to go like this big if your plant's like this, maybe like this, right? Give it a good amount of space to grow. How do you know your plant needs to be put into a new pot? If you look underneath the plant and you look through that drainage hole and you see roots coming out, that means the plant is root bound. Some plants will start to wilt or have yellow leaves, or start having leaf curl of some sort because of this, or they'll get white spots on their leaves like the money tree did. I actually saw one when I was driving today that had this problem. That just means you need to pot it up, and I actually need to pot up my Ficus audrey because it's doing that, and you'll see in the video. So you have an example. But it is generally a good idea to always be potting up like that, and to give your plant that room to grow if it is growing. So, and it will try to when you give it the right stuff when you first buy it. So you get the right pot size. You've already decided that how you are going to have drainage, because you need drainage. It's just how you're going to do it. Are you going to take it out? Or is it going to come out of the literal pot and then go out? Because you can actually repot into larger planter pots if you've already bought them and you're holding on to them. That's okay too. And you'll see people like Epic Gardening do this, frequently if they're selling plants. And nurseries do this. That's why they're called nursery pots. So you do that, and you're going to take your plant, you're going to turn the plant on the side, and you're going to give it a little pinch, and just try to work it out as one ball. Because when a plant is ready to get out of soil, it's going to basically have held on to all the soil that's there. That's how plants and trees stop erosion. They physically hold the soil down. That's why when plants die, they become desertified, because the soil is literally just getting blown away because nothing is holding the soil there, right? So when you're tipping your plant, you're gonna pinch, and it's gonna come out, and it's gonna be like a hard little ball. You're going to put a low level of soil into the pot, and you're going to place your plant inside to get a gauge of the height of where it needs to be. And you're going to want like a little lip above. Like, you don't want to plant it too low, because then you'll have like leaves that won't get over the edge of the pot, and they'll be too deeply potted, and then they'll suffer, especially if there's like not enough light, because the light will cut and then those leaves won't see anything. But just generally like around the top layer, like where the top of that soil is just under. You don't have to get too weird about this. Just don't pot it too low, and don't pot it over the top. Just like, right here, right? Layer of soil, lip of the pot, right? It's totally cool. Put enough soil in the bottom of the pot to do that. And you're going to want to take a high phosphorus soil. You can use a mineral soil for this one. It's usually pretty good. And work it into that bottom layer, the high phosphorus. It'll be like root starter, or you can ask somebody at your local nursery, like, can I have some root starter fertilizer? You'll work it into that bottom layer. So it'll be like little rocks. Just put like a visual layer on the top and leave it there. Then you'll place your plant on top of that, and you will backfill the soil into the container. So you're basically, there'll be this extra negative space, which is the area like of the soil you're adding, and you're just filling it in to work in the sides. And I guess I should have backtracked. If you had perlite and you have something to work into your soil mix, you could add that now. You could have also added it earlier when you had the soil there. Or you could add this to your soil before you even put it into the pot. You can go as high as 1-to-1 perlite and soil. Just some kind of amenity to help your soil drain even more, because your soil never wants to be wet. You're filling your soil in, you're backfilling it into this pot with your amenities, and then you have it on the top. And you can also put in another top layer of that soil starter and then just work it into the top inch of the pot. And I mean, we're not talking about going too crazy, just like maybe make it so you make like almost like a little like line in the sand sort of deal, and then just place it in like you're planting seeds, like just shake it in there. If you're using an organic fertilizer, it's a good idea because it's less hard to go overboard. If you're using a industrial fertilizer, then you just, be a little bit more cautious with this. And then as soon as you've done this, once you've planted the pot in, you tap the sides to get out any of the air bubbles so that the soil doesn't collapse while it's trying to establish. And you collapse all those air bubbles and everything's good. You just give it a little tap, and then you give it a deep water, right? And it's good to do this in the morning when it's cool outside, so that it's your roots don't get hot and they don't get exposed, they don't get shocked by the heat. So do it inside over the sink, or do it like in your garage in the morning or something like that, or outside in the morning when it's really early, so that when you take those roots out, it's pretty cool outside. So again, you're doing this, you've got the plant all the way in now, then you want to give it some water, and you want to water it all the way until that water comes out the bottom. And the first time you water it, it's kind of like it might take a minute because the stuff's waiting, but you want to just keep watering it until you see a little bit of water come out. So maybe water, wait 10 minutes, see if water came out, not add more. And then when water starts to pour out, then you can say, hey, that was like 2 cups or something, right? And then at that point, you put it where it needs to go. And you just wait and see till the water drains out, and you just give it water. And if it starts growing, you put fertilizer in your water, and that's the rest of your life. You just do the same fucking thing with like 99% of the plants you do. Adequate light. Don't get them in line of sight with the window, like when it's like super bright for too long if they're sensitive. Water accordingly to how dry the plant is getting if it has adequate light. You've already done everything you need to do right with your soil and your plant, and you're only giving it fertilizer when it's growing. And if you're growing citrus or whatever, you give it different fertilizer than you would if it was an indoor plant. Trying to think if there is anything else, but I know that I am going to end this episode a little bit differently, because guess what, guys? It's not ending. It's the plant tour. So let's go. Take it away, self from earlier. Time works funny in these videos, doesn't it? All right, so coming through here, the first thing, the first plant that I want to draw attention to is a plant that's really easy to take care of, grows pretty well, easy to neglect. Lots of people will call this a beginner plant. I think it is. This is a jade pothos. Pothos itself is that group of plants that are pretty tolerant to low lights. They can handle a bit of neglect and watering issues. But this is actually one my sister bought me, or didn't buy me, made me from her own pothos. She propagated it and I believe all you do is just take a cutting. This one's actually growing over here still. Look how long it is. She just snipped some of it and then put it up in a little pot, and then it just grew into this massive vine. And typically what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take like different snippets and then feed them all into a pot like that, and then some of them will take and then some won't. But she just did the one, and so we have this very awkwardly long pothos singular vine, as opposed to like this big bushy plant that would be kind of like coming all the way down this cabinet. But we love it. It's been with us for a long time now. So all right, and that's a fake plant there. So, and some of these, you might notice that it's a little bit sparse in here. We actually moved a lot of plants up into our bedroom because the light is consistently better up there. So we'll just go up here. I'm not quite sure. Most of these are Gwen's plants. I'm not quite sure what they are. She had to go through some extensive labeling to figure out what this guy is. I don't remember. This is an orbifolia. Orbifolia is like the species name. It's something orbifolia. I know this plant in particular has been reclassified a few times, but I know this guy is a tricky plant. You can see a little bit of brown on that bottom leaf, so I don't know what's going on with this guy, but she tends to perk up and go down. You'll hear a lot of, when you look at like different plant videos, you'll hear some people say things are like, quotes, diva plants. This is one of these plants, from what I understand, that you can't ever let dry out completely, and you need to give it adequate light. We also have, and I don't know why, one thing that Gwen does that kind of irritates me with these plants is she gets bored of looking at plants in certain spots, so she just moves them around, or she like wants to fill space. And yeah, so I might move some things while I'm doing this, but this is an air plant. I believe it's Lanzia. These plants, what I've been doing, and apparently it's been fine because the thing looks pretty healthy. I mean, I know like the side here looks like it's like falling down, but it was doing that when I bought it. You can spray these like every week, or you can just like completely dunk them in water and then just let them sit. But yeah, these guys are pretty easy to take care of, and they don't have pest issues at all, really. And I got this dude at Publix for like a couple dollars, and I just thought it was funny because it came in this little Mexican dude planter guy. And I actually use this right here to spray it, but I think the better way to do it is to just take your air plants, and then you literally dunk them in the sink, and then you shake them and get the water out of like the little crevices that form in here, and then you just hang them up again. And they're really nice because you can like put them on the walls. They don't have roots. They're just like little sort of balls of vegetation, I guess. I don't remember what this is. This is some kind of arrowhead, or in that arrowhead family, I believe. Gwen's had this forever. It actually goes pinker with better light. She actually thought it was pinker with less light at one point, so we kind of had issues with that. But this one's been doing really good. We also have, this is some kind of fern. In the description, I'll try to get better names for all these things. We've got our little orthicone fossil back here I got a while ago. Speaking of plants that she moved, this is Thai basil. We've had lots of mints and basils throughout our plant caring lives, and this is the current one we got. I got this little planter for Christmas with the face, and it's actually kind of funny. I'll do it right now just for the video. You can actually throw some glasses on there, and then it's Taylor the basil, right? Pretty hilarious. Well, I don't know, but yeah, we've done a lot of basils and stuff. These herbs tend to grow pretty well. I think I may have just forgotten to water this guy last week. We basically been going through, it's pretty cold out right now in winter, and our AC doesn't really heat the house well. And what happens with a lot of plants when it's cold is that they don't drink as much water. There's a lot of like nice pink in there. You see that? How vibrant that is? Pretty cool. They don't uptake water as well, and they can have issues. You don't want to water them as much because they're gonna, stay too wet and get root rot or whatever. So this is another one of Gwen's arrowheads. Pretty much all the plants I'm showing you right here don't belong to me. These are all Gwen's plants. These are cuttings from a coleus that I'll show an older photo of to show you what it looked like when it was nice. But this coleus has a disease, and Gwen wanted to propagate these. So this is actually what it would look like with propagation with most things. You can see like you basically just take cuttings for a lot of plants and just stick them in here and let these feeder roots grow out. But the problem is that these plants will probably get nasty and die anyways because of disease issues. I'm not quite sure what the disease is, but I'll probably put a reference in the video when I figure out what it is. This is another arrowhead, so this guy and this guy are related. And we've never had really any problems with these arrowheads. They all grow pretty well in the slights. And we had both of these for a really long time. These are, they're marketed as ferns. And I think she was pointing that side back towards the light for a reason, because if you look, it's way less lush. These are some kind of thing that is usually classified as a fern, but I don't remember what it was. Gwen told me it was something else recently. You can see the right side is way greener and is growing a lot more lushly. She actually bought two of these plants and planted them in the same pot, and I don't know if one is sort of choking out the other one for for like nutrients. It's not something that I would personally do, but she wanted to do this. My theory about why this guy on the left is not looking as good is we did, and I'll get to it when we get up to the Monstera, one of our big plants upstairs. We did like a pest spray about a month ago, and I think I tagged this side mostly. And ferns, I know this isn't like a true fern, but fern-like plants are very picky, delicate plants altogether. And they can be very sensitive to treatments, like pest treatments. And I'm thinking that when I was when I was blasting these guys in the shower, I got this side with the systemic, which we'll get into later. But the right side of the plant looks gorgeous. The left side looks whatever. So I don't know. We'll see how this plant does. But it's not dead on the left side. It's just not growing as much. And I think she might need to give this guy some fertility or something. And you should always be fertilizing your plants if they are growing. This is another one of Gwen's plants. This is the purple passion plant. This one is a rehabber. So she actually bought it when because she wanted to try to get it to rehab. And this side on the right side is growing up. I know that the grow requirements for this thing aren't too hot, or aren't too bad, and the right side actually looks okay. But obviously down here, the plant is very wilted and dying, and I'm not quite sure why. Again, I let Gwen work with a lot of these plants. Right here, we have a ZZ plant. ZZ plants are pretty easy to take care of. This guy's little. They're known for growing very slowly. So if you get a ZZ plant, you're gonna want to, it's just gonna grow slowly. They have these, basically their roots, and maybe I can show this to you guys. Their roots are kind of like, there it is. So if you look right there, they're like almost like little potatoes, and they're known as like little semi-succulents because they store water really well. So you almost like water these very infrequently, and the soil here is like, I actually watered this fairly recently because I had really been like letting it dry for a long time, and I didn't think it was actually on this bottom rung. And again, here's Gwen moving things around again. It was actually on this bottom rung for a long time, but I didn't think it was getting enough light, and we'll get into that later. Yeah, I moved it up here because you can see like some of the leaves were yellowing, and you really don't want this plant to like drop leaves because it's not going to grow leaves back on that well. But it doesn't really die, and I want to move it upstairs into our better room anyways, but I'm always fighting Gwen on these things. So, but yeah, it's this guy's not too bad to take care of. I know this is like the wall of plants that are not always doing so hot, but we'll see. Now, if you want to look at one of my homies, this is my money tree. I've had this guy for a while now. He's in that this big container here, and once it warms up, because he hasn't been drinking as much water lately, it's still actually kind of moist and kind of spongy up top here. Actually, probably the next few days, I'll give him some water and I'll replant him. We're planting him in this giant head we got, I think, at Home Goods because we thought it was fun. But the original foliage is down here. And then you can see just how much it's grown. I mean, it's like almost 3 times larger than it was. And there are a couple leaves, I think, back here that are not doing so hot. I mean, I think they're just old. Like, this plant has put on so much growth. It just, with any plant, you're going to find some leaf drop once it starts getting older. And I think this is just, yeah, this actually got ripped off. So the stem is actually off here. And again, this is like fairly normal for a plant that's pretty old like this, where it has these like super dark old leaves in here, and all of the energy is growing to these top leaves. So what we're doing right here is not like a bad thing. Like if you're seeing like, because look at the top, right? See this vegetation? See all these new shoots coming out? Like, this is all top growth, and the plant only has so much energy, and the leaves get old and die at some points. In fact, even down here, the plant is trying to grow. So, I mean, it's just grown like insanity before, grown like crazy since I've gotten it. I want to see if I can find you a leaf that was interesting. Maybe I won't be able to. Maybe I'll just provide a photo of it later. But I had this plant in a very small container at one point, and it's still in a fairly small container for how large it is. But, and again, the one thing about these roots, they're braided like this. Money trees don't explicitly like grow like this. It's just a way of, propagating or, growing a money tree. And it's just like a popular way of doing it that people tend to like. Very common plant. When these plants get stressed, like root bound, they can grow like, this is just from like water or like some kind of treatment that this plant got when it was still, because this is from Home Depot, I think. And this is like a really old leaf, while these are like newer. These are like leaves that I grew right here, I'm just throwing away all this crapola. I'll just move it off to the side for a second. But when those leaves get stressed or root bound, you'll actually see like white spots sometimes on the side, like very obviously white spots. And that's when you know that you need to repot the thing. And there's one other plant that needs to be repotted right now. So I'm not going to move this, but I'm going to ask Gwen why it's not there. This is my plant. So this plant, I got to say, do not move this. We want more light for this guy. But yeah, I mean, this is all new growth right here. We haven't had this plant for very long, and it is growing. And these plants are not too bad to take care of. Let's see what else. So I'll now go upstairs here, and I'm coming up here. So the main coleus, we were actually moved up here into this window, and it's just been dying because of whatever disease that is. Actually it's not. It's the coleus. I guess Gwen moved the coleus in here. So this is the original plant, and you can see how sulky it is being in here. It just has some kind of disease. I don't know what it is, but if you look, there's a couple different treatment options, and I'll actually bring these in with me into the bedroom so I can show you while I'm talking about a plant we had some pest issues with. Set these down. All right, so this is our current setup, and this is what's making a lot of our plants happier. I can never remember. I never remember the names of Gwen's plants. I only remember the names of my plants. I don't know. This is, oh God, I can't remember. But yeah, it's big, pretty. These are called spates right here. I know this is a relative of a peace lily. These are called spates. Sometimes they turn red. Sometimes as they grow or get older, they'll go red and then revert back to green, at least in the case of the peace lily. There's actually another one coming up over there. And this guy has been a pretty easy to take care of plant for a while for us. Not as picky as peace lilies are, as a lot of people have experience with. But yeah, and then we got some kind of ivy down here. This one was really droopy when Gwen bought it. She's been into this thing of like wanting to rehab plants a lot lately. And again, it's been cold like for the last month, and our AC doesn't work that well. So a lot of the plants like stopped growing because they're not warm enough. Because a lot of these plants are tropical, but hopefully that'll change soon. This is right here in the middle of the frame. This is a wandering Jew. And this plant is actually put on a really, like, we moved it up here like a week ago, and those leaves in the middle of both are new. So it's really liked getting the extra sunlight in here. These are a couple other little plants that Gwen has. I don't remember what they are. This is Audrey ficus, and this guy has been interesting because I've had him for a while, and he's in the nursery pot. If you look in here, just sitting inside of this pot. I actually need to repot him, and I'll show you why. He wasn't taking on any water at all. Like, he's completely stopped, and he's not looking like bad. Like, none of his leaves are yellowing, but this is a plant a lot of people look at as being like a good indoor plant that grows pretty well. I'm actually going to sit the phone down for like 2 seconds here. All right, I'm back. So this is the Audrey ficus, and I've taken him. He's in his nursery pot outside of the little terracotta down there. But if you look on the bottom, you'll notice there are roots coming out of the drainage holes. And the reason why this plant is not taking up the water, why the soil is never drying out in here, is because the plant is stressed and wants to be in a bigger pot. So if you have a plant and you look in the bottom in the drainage holes, whether that be the drainage holes in your terracotta or in your little nursery pots, that is the reason. That is a stressor, and that is going to need to be potted up. And you can use some. There are certain fertilizers that are better for repotting plants that are like they're high like phosphorus, so they're better for root growth. And I've never had any issues losing a plant repotting it with that kind of fertilizer. So this is the big boy right here. I might actually spin him around because I want to. Not just for the video, but just because I want him to. One thing you'll notice with plants is that they will always try to grow towards the light. So if you want them to look even, you have to keep spinning them. And this guy actually needs to get watered today because he was actually, and you see how all these leaves are, they're actually like, they're like not only just growing towards the light, they're actually turning. This is a really light hungry plant that loves to grow, and you can get a sense for how, I mean, this leaf right here is new, and these two are new. The bunch of these are new. You see how big these leaves are. This is Monstera deliciosa, and this guy had some pest issues. Actually, we got him when he was really small too. He was like around this size. This guy's had a lot of pest issues when we got it. Well, not a lot when we got it, but it had something called thrips, and thrips are these little disgusting insects. I may have talked about them when I record the video. I'm actually recording this before I even record the Knights of the Republic for plants here, but we treated it with this rosin flower stuff, which is a systemic, which basically means it goes into the roots and it makes the soil a bit toxic. It's very taxing on the plant, and it makes the soil, it basically goes in and then the plant sucks it up, and then the plant becomes toxic for virtually everything. And the core ingredients in this, like, what is it, deltamethrin, that stuff was in another product that I had read that somebody had used with success against thrips before. And a lot of plant tuber people will tell you that you don't eradicate thrips, you just manage them. But I wanted to get rid of them, and I tried that. It didn't work. We treated all of our plants because Gwen thought we needed to, and we didn't. And I don't think it like really hurt any of our plants, but it was just, there was a little bit of overload, I think, on some of the plants, and I think some of the leaves showed a little bit of stress when we were doing that. But what I ended up doing that actually worked for the thrips was the spinosad soap, and this stuff is like non-toxic. It's really like low to no toxicity for humans, and for lots of other animals. I think it's fairly toxic for fish still, which most of these things are, but you can really just like get in here and like wash the fuck out of your leaves and just like, you know, get in all the crevices and stuff. And this got rid of my thrips in like a day or two. So yeah, we had thrips issues, but you can see that, you know, we're not really having any of those issues right now. I actually need to fertilize this guy when I water him too, because he's just been growing so much. And you're supposed to whenever you do that. You can also see there's like these little bits of water right here. It's actually this plant and the pothos will actually output water. It's almost like the plant's like urinating or something. I forget the process. I'll put it like over the video here where this happens, and you guys can learn more about it. But it basically just means that the plant is just deciding that it wants to lose some water, and it started doing this when it got cold. So I wonder if it's just a reflex to that. Again, I haven't watered this thing in like 2 weeks. I give this thing like a gallon of water every like 2 weeks. It's been about 2.5 weeks now. So yeah, but for me, like, I don't like to own that many plants. I like to just get the plants that I have big and like be better at taking care of them. And this is really our big boy. I mean, if you can see like the size comparison, I'll try to flip this around. This plant is huge. Like, this plant it's basically up to my waist, and we're trying to get it to where it'll cover this whole window. I guess got these bamboo stakes here, and like you have to kind of tie it up down here to get it to grow up, because this plant will grow up like trees and stuff in the wild. So yeah, we love Monstera deliciosa. Big beautiful leaves, loves to grow. A little bit can be difficult with pests, but yeah. So, and I gotta repot that Audreyficus. The Audreyficus, I think, is a banyan tree, actually, like in its colloquial name. But I think that may be it as far as our plants go. But there's one last guy. I'm just gonna like slide my bare feet into these shoes real quick to go out front. And that is the Calamondin lime here. So this is Calamondin lime. I've harvested a lot of limes. It's basically, they taste like more tart kumquats. They taste like limey kumquats. And we've harvested a lot of fruit from this thing. But I pretty much mistreated this thing when I lived in the old house, and we had mulched it, but there was a lot of like other things trying to grow in here, like just from being outside. And you can see on the top of this plant, I've basically been paying for what I did when I mistreated it when I first got it. And somehow it's actually not so bad with the leaf curl as it was. But if you see leaves that are like curling upwards a lot of the times, it means that they don't have enough water. And that they obviously need more. And this is a plant that guzzles water. There's also different fertilizer needs for each plant. If you look, these plants are like really, their leaves are really like specky. So what this means, I believe, is that it needs a higher nitrogen fertilizer. I've never been that good working with citrus plants, but if I get better at it, I'll let you know. But I've also, like, this plant just like loves putting out fruit. It'll put out flowers. Those flowers will drop. They'll form like just kind of like the core of the female flower, and then they'll go into this green state, and then you'll eventually get like an actual calamondin out of it. And I make like tiki drinks with the calamondin juice, and they're always like really good, like super good. This plant has dropped a lot of leaves. It hasn't put on a lot of leaves, and frankly, I think that's just because it needs more nitrogen, because in NPK, nitrogen is what helps the leaf growth itself. So yeah, and I mean, these are like pretty decent sized fruits. Like, you know, there's my thumb here. So they're really like, they're pretty little, and like I've seen bigger calamondin trees that had bigger fruits. So, okay, some of these look kind of nasty, and I think that's just because it's frozen like almost like 4 times a week for the last like 4 months. So it's been really irritating to get this plant enough light to be out here, and when it's not like cold as fuck. But if you can believe it, this plant is actually doing better. And a lot of these leaves, because I've been watering it more, a lot of these leaves, almost the whole top of the plant was curling. And they still are kind of curled here, and here, but they're kind of coming down. And getting the like specking out of the leaves and getting the curl to stop can take quite a while once you're, you know, regularly fertilizing and watering these plants. So yeah, that's basically the end of the tour. Also, you know, this is my current place, and yeah, I'll maybe pop back, or if this is the end of the episode, all I have to say is bye-bye.